Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and today we are here for part one of a six-part series as we journey through Peer Gynt by Henrik Ibsen. This being, as I understand it, his first play on this scale. And we are here for Act 1, beginning with Act 1, Scene 1. And I think it'll be important to start with just what's going on here. And we are introduced first to Aza, which she's a widow, and she lives with her son, Peer, who, and now, as I understand, this is pronounced Peer Gynt. I only speak English, so this might be the most terrible pronunciation of this name to ever come out of anyone's mouth. But that is, as I understand it, how it is pronounced. So Aza lives with Peer, her son, on whom she depends for hunting and general masculine type things. Peer, for his part, is a bullshitter. And he's telling his mother that he nearly caught a buck this big. She calls him on his shit. She knows he's lying. She doesn't buy it. And she starts on a list of things that he's screwed up and reasons he is a screw up. And during this list, Peer is fixated on one thing that she says, and it's that he could have had a girl. And basically as it happens, and yet it's true enough, something might have come of you, had you not been steeped forever in your lies and trash and moonshine. Hegstad's girl was fond of you. Easily you could have won her. Had you wooed her with a will, could I? Peer interrupts. The old man's too feeble not to give his child her way. He is stiff-necked in a fashion, but at last 'tis Ingrid rules. And where she leads, step by step, stumps the gaffer, grumbling after. Basically, what this says is, you could have had a girl. Could I? Yes, you moron. Her dad was too old to keep her away from your dumb ass. And this is the flight of fancy that catches Peer at this point. And, well, Peer is big and dumb, but he's not a coward. So he decides he doesn't care if she's getting married. He's going to go ahead and he's going to go to this wedding, find her, and take her for his own. He's going to interrupt that wedding. He's going to stop the wedding, even if it means ditching his dear old mama on a rooftop. So he does. Two of her friends happen along and help her down, but after having decided to go to this wedding, he is corralled by other patrons of the wedding. He is cornered and he is made fun of. He is embarrassed. But he decides to go to the wedding anyway, where he will dance with the women. And he is roundly rejected. They were warned about him. They heeded that warning. And they all reject Peer one by one. Until he finds a girl named Solvig. And she agrees to dance with him. Until he introduces himself. But it also turns out that at this wedding, the wife, the bride-to-be, the woman whom Peer has shown up in order to speak to marry, has locked herself away before the wedding. Now, Pear's legendary feats of strength, we'll say, precede him, and the bride's groom asks him for help getting her out of this room. He asks for Peer's help. Instead, Peer helps himself to the bride herself. He grabs the bride and runs away. There are just a couple things here to speak about in this first act. On page 9 of, this is the Dover Thrift Edition. Page 9, we're still in Act 1, Scene 1, I believe. Ozza, help the Lord have mercy on us. Peer, we're drowning. Peer, I was born for a braver death. Ozza, aye, sure enough you'll hang at last. This is the sort of humor ironically known as Gallows humor. And we get a good deal of this from the mother character, which is something interesting to note, because we know right away that with that being the case, we are in no fairy tale. This is not a beleaguered mother. This is not a supportive mother. This is the mother who is fiercely independent as far as she can be, which removes her almost immediately from that fairy tale realm. But it's also a woman who has a sense of humor and is willing to make jokes at the expense of things which she needs. She needs Peer to be around. She doesn't care. She's willing to give him a hard time. And that sense of humor maintains throughout this first act. Mama is no fan. This coming to us by way of page 12, and I just love this. This is while he is being chided, or after he's been chided by the group, and before he's decided to go ahead and go to the wedding anyway. Oh, let them chatter. After all, they can't sneer the life out of my body. That quote, they can't sneer the life out of my body. A is one hell of a quote. But B, it tells us something right here at the beginning of Act 1, Scene 2. It tells us that Peer is not able to be stopped by anyone's damn opinion. He doesn't care. This is my first time through this text, so I am not privy to the rest of it. This is obviously not in the realm of fairy tale for many reasons, one of which we've already discussed. But this tells me something about the rest of the play, and that is, Peer's going to go through some stuff. And this play will be a testament to that line. They can't sneer the life out of me. This is a character who's decided what type of person he is. He is lively and rambunctious because he says so. Now, being lively and rambunctious is, as much as any character quirk, a decision. And it's one Peer's not willing to be talked out of. Peer is willing to look like an ass in front of an entire wedding by claiming the bride. And when that plan is thwarted, he's willing to go ahead and just run off with her. Take her with him. So the lesson that's going to come in the form of this text from here, the beginning of Act 1, Scene 2, has to be an internal change, or lack thereof. We know that there is nothing on the outside from his reported feats of strength, from his already seen feats of strength, and from the claim that they can't sneer the life out of me. these things tell us he's not going to be changed from the outside. Any change that's going to come is going to have to be from the inside. And that does not necessarily mean it is a revelation in and of himself. What it can be is a revelation gained through allowing access to the innards of the character. So, for example, he's run off with this bride. He's claimed her. He's taken that step. And he's done something again that is very outlandish. Gone to a wedding to steal the bride. And by God, he pulls it off. Running away with that bride, wherever they end up, that woman could say something to him that would change him. Because he has accepted her, adopted her into the space of the character. He has made the choice, acquired the company, and that may change him. It's one of those weird little things that it has to work that way. And if it didn't, it would be strange. And it would feel strange. And these are things that happen on a writerly level. These things are things that happen from the subconscious. There is a school of thought that what writing is, what writers are, first off, that writers are born. That there is some mechanism in writers that makes them writers. That is a school of thought. In that school of thought, there is the assumption, a school of thought which goes on the assumption that writers don't really know what in the hell they're doing. Most writers work in that way. They pound out a first draft and then they sort of tease the things out of it. Or they'll outline and then tease the literature out of it. This through line has to come out over here. And a lot of it happens on a subconscious level. And it is sort of, Jordan Peterson talks about this sort of thing a lot, though he doesn't normally, I've never seen him care enough to actually define it in this way. One of the things he's real big on is that we all tell the same stories over and over again. This religion is the same as that religion, is the same as this previous religion, is the same as this ancient religion, and it all feels right and we don't know why, and it's very mystical. The real trick there is whether or not it being real mystical and undefinable, and the fact that it just comes to us, is that evolved into us in the same way that if you're around a child, a baby, and you clap your hands, it spreads out. That is an instinct. It is something that we do not train babies to do that. It is an instinct bred into them that when they hear that noise, they recognize the need to sprawl. There is a school of thought that writing, much of writing, all of writing, is instinctual. And that there is some DNA piece in people who are writers that has to write and has to communicate. And not only that, has to communicate the same stories that have always been told. Because they are right. They feel right. They are evolved into us. Moving on from that, page 14, the end of scene 3 is where we get a lot of characters who are judging Peer. And there is this line. Keep your temper, Peer. Though Ingrid has jilted you, others are left. Think, son of John Gynt, come on to the feast. You'll find there both lambkins on the windows well on. Son of John Gynt. Was Peer's father a great man? Was Peer's father someone important? We get from the description of Pear's life in Act 1, Scene 1, that they are not well off, but being well off does not define the status of the man in society, especially at a time where we're reading this, things were more stratified by birth. So it could be that John Gynt was an especially well thought of man, and especially capable. And if you go through basically all forms of literature, those things which make a man are his level of capability. And one needn't be rich to be capable, and one needn't be capable to be rich. But where you have the pairing of those things, you have iconic figures like Batman, right? Rich and very capable. Where you have a disjointed pairing of those things, someone who is rich but not capable, normally you have a villain. You have a villainous, vile character. The rich man who's not very capable, but he's willing to throw money down to manipulate people. Where you have the reverse, someone who is capable but not rich, you have someone that is almost always well respected. And it seems that that might be where we are going here, and it might be why psychologically Peer is forced on some level to tell these great stories about himself. Well, I almost caught a fish this big. Because he knows what the great man can do, but he can't do it. So he makes up the stories about being capable. It's too early to tell that yet. But I think that the hints are there that John Gynt was not rich, but capable. And he's got this screw up of a son. But where is John? What happened to John? Why is Asa a widow? Why is Peer without father? Is the fact that Peer is without father what led to him being such a screw up? He had no one to teach him in those masculine ways. And not so masculine, just being thrown out there as a form of role or duty. In that in this society, everyone had their own, seems to have their lot in front of them, and on that lot there is work to be done. It is only after that work has been fulfilled that other things can happen, like dating, like storytelling. Instead, Peer skips the lot of work and jumps straight to the storytelling. And because of this, they become tall tales. Now, the one last thing that I think needs to be talked about in this first act is the name. The name apparently is pronounced Peer. It is spelled P-E-E-R, Peer. One of my favorite things about literature is that it is used to explain the world. Meaning, there needn't be anything in the text that the author intended to be there for us to take some worth from it. I don't know what P-E-E-R means in wherever Peer Gynt is taking place. I don't know if this is a common name. I am not able to... this is a Norwegian tale. I don't know if this is A, a common name. I don't know B, what the name means contextually in that society, all I know is English. And I'm able to make interpretations based on that because I don't care what the author means. This is the death of the author. The text is divorced from the person who wrote it. So the name Peer, as it is interesting. And I looked a little bit into the etymology of the words. Peer, as in an equal, my friend is my peer, comes into the English language around the 1300s from the French par, meaning equal. So what does that say about the character Peer? Who is he a peer to? He seems to be a bit of a screw-up compared to other people his age in his society. Is he a peer to us, the reader, the audience, the viewer, as this was a play? Is that the case? Is he a peer to those of his age and in his location, and he is just subpar to them? That is something that will be interesting going forward to look at. And to look at, P-E-E-R, peer, peering into something, peering at someone. This is another thing that is important to maybe distinguish, because we mentioned the lack of father. The father isn't there. The way one learns their role in society is to watch, to observe. You observe the things that are necessary, you observe the things that are expected, you observe the things that you think you will grow into. When you can't do that, you might look other places. He seems to observe those around him. He did not have that, possibly did not have that father to look up to and learn from and assume the role of the man. But he is looking out. He is seeing other people, and he doesn't have what they have. So he is creating stories based on that. He's told these tall tales of things that he's done, magic that he's observed and suffered from, bucks that he pretty much had killed, but something just went wrong. So there is that part as well. And before this text, I had never really considered the link between the two. Peering at a peer, learning from someone who is supposed to be on par with you. I think that is something that is going to be worth watching going forward. But that is all I have for this episode 1 of 6 as we journey through Peer Gynt by Henrik Ibsen. It really helps me out if you hit the like button, subscribe if you want to make sure you keep getting this kind of content. And if you want to help me grow here on Strip Cover Lit, hit that share button and share this with someone you know who can probably say these names much better than can I.